A very good day, my dear students. Today we go to the next chapter, that is the circulatory system. Now, so far what we had done was we have completed the chapters. If you remember the first class of photosynthesis, I said I gave a review of the total class. We finished about the first 4 chapters, okay, that is your cell division, structure of chromosomes and genetics. Thereafter we dealt with absorption of water by root, transpiration and photosynthesis, which means we have completed the plant physiology as well. Now we go to animal physiology. In between there is a chapter called chemical coordinator, which I will deal with you later. Now I go to the circulatory system, an important chapter which you need to understand. Now I give you a PowerPoint of the whole thing teaching you, okay. Now you can tell me if you like a blackboard version. Once again we will give you that too. Now first let us look into the syllabus. Now before we go to this one syllabus, let us see, in the beginning we said the structural and functional unit, okay, of living organism is the cell. Cell is a structural and functional unit of life, and a group of cell forms the tissue, and a group of tissues form the organ, and a group of organ having the same function or specific function forms the organ system. And we have a number of organ system, and a group of organ system gives rise to the organisms. So now this is mainly refers to your human physiology, the circulatory system about ourselves. So now what is the syllabus tells you? The syllabus tells you about the composition of blood. I will be dealing that. Then you have a brief idea of tissue and lymph, okay. So because we have already the blood, I have said, and there are 3 principal type of blood, fluid in the body, that is your blood, tissue and lymph. Then you have increase in efficiency of RBC, because when we go for the composition of blood, then we will also come across with the blood cells and the plasma, the different type of blood cells, and one of the blood cells present in our blood, there is your RBC, that is your red blood cells, and how it is efficient in transporting, in doing its function, that we will see, okay, and the reasons why it is so efficient. Then a brief idea of blood coagulation, that is a blood clotting. After we finish about RBC, WBC and blood platelets, we will also learn about the blood coagulation. Then we learn about the structure and working of the heart, and along with the names of the main blood vessels that is entering and leaving the heart, okay, and the liver and the kidney, which means the blood vessels that enters the heart, that leaves the heart, that enters the liver, that leaves the liver, that enters kidney and that leaves kidney, okay. Now besides that, I will also teach you about that as one more thing called hepatic portal system, okay. Then concept of systole and diastole, okay, that is how the heart is pumping the blood and how is it happening, about the blood pressure, systole, diastole, etc. And a brief idea of pulse and blood pressure. Then blood vessels, that is your artery, veins and capillary, and to be explained with the help of diagram to bring out the relationship between, okay, there is a spelling mistake here, it is T, between their structure and function. And a brief idea of the lymphatic organs, that is lymphatic system, I will teach you. Then you have the spleens and tonsils are your lymphatic organs. Remember, they will ask you, give 2 examples for the lymphatic organ, that is your spleen and tonsils. Then you have the blood group A, B and O. So AB, O blood group system, and how does RH factor makes it positive and negative, okay. So we will also learn about the special protein which makes your blood group either positive or negative, that is your RH factor. Then we will learn about the, as I said, significance of hepatic portal system, okay. Now this is about the syllabus. Begin with the chapter. I have just dealt with you about the syllabus. So it is a vast syllabus, but as I teach you, it is very easy for you, and you will do it very well, you will understand it, and it will be easy for you to learn, listen very carefully, repeatedly till you understand. Now first of all, why do we need transport inside the body? In the lower classes, or even in the previous chapter, we learned about little bit about xylem and phloem, okay, and then xylem is responsible for ascent of sap, phloem responsible for descent of sap. Xylem takes an upward movement of water and mineral, and phloem responsible for the downward movement of food substances prepared by the leaf. Now, that is a kind of a transport system in plant. Now, we eat, okay, we have, we breathe in air, we eat food, we have lot of hormone enzymes in our system, and every cell needs different type of nutrients, different type of, hormones, enzymes, etc. Now, how are they being transported from one part of the body to another part of the body? So, we need, let us see why do we need a transport system. Now, what is the transport system? The transport system is nothing but the circulatory system. Just like you have in plant vasculatory system, vascular bundle, or that is the xylem and phloem. In animal we have the circulatory system, wherein the blood is present inside these system, these vessel, which transports all the substances needed for different parts of our body. This blood becomes a medium of transportation. First, number 1, digestive system. Okay, we need a transport system to make the digestive system, for the digestive system, meaning we eat food, it undergoes digestion, gets digested, it is being absorbed. In the class 9 you learned about the digestive system. We eat the food, it undergoes digestion, and the nutrient being extracted, it may be glucose, it may be protein, amino acids if you remember, and the fat being broken down and absorbs nutrients which are needed to be transferred. So, once the digestion is over in the small and large intestine and stomach, from there it has been transported to different parts of the body, and that being carried out by your circulatory system, that is the blood present in the circulatory system. Okay. So, meaning the digested food substances are distributed to different parts of the body through blood or the circulatory system. Then you have your respiratory system. You are breathing in air and breathing out carbon dioxide. The air you breathe in, it goes to lung. From lungs, the oxygen has been transported to every cell to break down the glucose that has come from your stomach and intestine and liver to different cells and to produce energy. It is this circulatory system that carries the air that you have breathed in containing oxygen to different parts of the body. After, from each cell, from different parts of the body, after the glucose being broken down in the presence of oxygen, the carbon dioxide is released, and that is being brought back to lungs, and you are breathing out, which is also done by your circulatory system, that is the medium of transport is your blood. Now, that is about the respiratory system, how the transport system is connected to the respiratory system. Then you have the excretory system, wherein the waste substances, it may be carbon dioxide is a waste substance, the sweat is a waste substance, well, sweat, it takes place from the sweat gland. Then you have the kidney which removes urea, uric acid, excessive water, excessive glucose, etc. All of them are removed from the body through the blood. It's taken from different parts, like liver converts a harmful ammonia into urea, which is transported to kidney through blood. In the kidney, you have all excessive water reaches through the blood, and the kidney does the function of removing the waste substances. So, thus the circulatory system helps in the removal of all the waste substances from your body. Okay. Now, similarly, you have the hormone. I will teach you the endocrine gland system, where you have the hormone secreted by the endocrine gland system have to be carried to different parts of the body by the circulation of blood or circulating blood. You will understand still better when I teach you the endocrine gland system. Then you have the above mentioned functions are carried out by two circulating fluid, that is your blood and the lymph. Okay. Now, when I teach about the three type of the fluid, and when I teach about the blood and the lymph, what is the difference, you will understand better. I will teach you what is lymph, what is blood. Then you have the distribution of heat, our body temperature is always maintained as 37 degrees Celsius, and that constancy in the body temperature is maintained just because of the blood, because the blood moves all along, okay, all through our body and thus distributes the heat to different parts of our body. Then protection by blood. Now, you have the WBC, which plays an important present in the blood, plays an important role in protecting ourselves from various diseases, because the WBC is known as soldiers of our body, which protects our body. It fights against the foreign diseases and protects our body from bacteria and other harmful germs. Blood produces an antitoxin and antibody. I will teach you that, what is antitoxin, what is antibody, when I teach the end of the chapter about a little bit about immunoglobulin. So it produces antitoxin and antibody, and which neutralizes the poisonous substances and kills the germs. So which means, you see, you have a number of importance. One is it helps in the digestive system, it helps in the excretory system, it helps in the respiratory system, also it helps in distributing the hormone, enzymes and hormone, nutrients, mineral ions, etc. And it is all done by two main fluids, that is your blood and lymph. Then it also distributes the heat. Then you have the WBC, protects our body from different diseases by engulfing the bacteria with the help of two proteins called antitoxin and antibodies. Now that's about your why do we need circulatory system in our blood, okay, in our body. So we had, now remember children, I have combined both why do we need transport in a system, because it is mainly connected to the circulatory system, especially the blood. So I have connected both the functions of blood as well as why do we need a transport in our body. So both I have connected and put it in one as why do we need a transport system in our body. So all the functions I have put them together along with the functions of your blood. Now we come to the fluids in our body. You know, there are three principal fluids in our body. Number one, the blood. Second, the tissue fluid. Third, the lymph. Okay, I repeat, we have three principal fluids in our body: the blood, the tissue and the lymph. Okay. Now, before we go to the diagrammatic explanation, let me tell you, the blood contained in the heart and in the blood vessel, that is in arteries, veins and capillaries. I will teach you what is artery, what is vein, what is capillary and the blood. So these are vessels, actually these are a tube like structure. Okay. These arteries and veins are tube like structure, inside which you have the blood. So the blood present in the heart as well as in the vessel, just like a river flowing throughout our body, is a fluid, okay, contained in the circulatory system. So blood is part of your circulatory system, because the circulatory system consists of three organs: the vessel, the blood in itself, because a group of tissue is your, this one it's a liquid tissue, fluid connective tissue. Blood is nothing but an example for fluid connective tissue. So you have the tissue, the blood, okay, you have the blood vessel and the heart, together they make up their circulatory system. Then you have the tissue fluid. Now the tissue fluid occupies the spaces between the cells in the organ. Okay, you have different cells, group of cells. Okay, so that occupies the spaces between the cells is your tissue fluid. Then because a group of cells is called tissue, so between the tissues you have fluid running present, which makes it nice, fresh and nice. Okay, so that is your tissue fluid. Then lymph is nothing but which is contained within the lymph vessels and lymphatic organs such as the spleen and tonsil. Okay, I will explain to you what is lymph after I finish up the circulatory system. Then you will understand. If I explain to you about the lymph, you will not understand, but for now you understand this much. It is a fluid present inside the lymphatic vessel. There is no blood vessel. There is no vessel just like your blood vessel. Now lymph is wherever it is flowing, forming a pathway, and that pathway is known as a lymphatic vessels or lymph vessels, and the organs are your spleen and tonsils. Okay, your tonsil, your spleen present just below the stomach are example for your lymphatic organ. I will explain to you in details later. Now we just go, mainly we shall emphasize a little bit about, for you to understand clearly, okay, about the blood. This is you have a heart here, you have a heart here, you have a lung here, you have the blood vessels. This indicates the vein, and this indicates your artery, and this indicates your capillary. So, the blood is flowing here, okay, which means it goes from heart to lungs. After oxygenation it comes back to heart, I will teach you later on, and from heart it goes to different parts of your body and organs and tissues, and it enters into the organ in the form of your capillary, and the capillary normally consists of 50% of the vein and 50% of your artery. Remember children, it is a vessel. Artery is a vessel, artery is a vessel, vein is a vessel. I will teach you in details, you will understand better. It is a vessel, and this is a capillary. So, all three of them are your blood vessel. Here is the storage house for your blood. So, it supplies to different parts of the body. Now, so this is one type of fluid called your blood. Now, this is color differences, just to know you, okay, this is your vein, this is your artery. It is not that the color of the vein is, the color of the blood present in vein is blue and the color of the blood present in artery. No, the color of the blood is always red in color. Just to differentiate, they have given you two different colors. Now, if you notice, you see from the capillary, the fluid is coming out, the lymph. I will teach you what it is. Okay, after completing this syllabus, this one chapter, you will know why it is called lymph. Okay, lymph is a straw colored fluid. That's why they have given you a kind of an yellow color. Okay, it's a kind of yellow or straw colored fluid that comes out into the organ. From the organ, it comes to the tissues. Okay, after supplying, it does not, the fluid, the plasma. Okay, it comes back. Now, this fluid, you have so many small capillaries. It forms a pathway, a separate pathway. I will tell you, I will explain to you later why it is called lymph and why it is. So, this much you understand. This is your blood and this is your lymph. Lymph is nothing but the plasma of the blood comes out. Okay, the pani leaving the blood cells does not come out except WBC neutrophils. So, the plasma, the water part of the blood comes out. Okay, I will tell you the reason and etc. later on. For different functions. So, the water part of the blood comes out for different functions. After coming out, it is doing its function, it goes back to the heart through a separate pathway and pours into your inferior vena cava, that is a vein, and thus it goes. Okay. Now, these are the two different fluids, one blood, the other one is lymph. Remember, lymph is nothing but, I will once again when I repeat at the end of the class, you will have a clear cut picture. Right now you will have little difficulty in understanding what is lymph, because I am not, unless you understand till the end of the chapter, you will not be able to get a clear cut concept. However, for now this much there are two types of fluids, one is blood, another one is lymph connecting to the circulatory system. Besides that, you have one more fluid called the tissue fluid. Okay. So, there are three principal fluid in our body: tissue fluid, lymph and blood. Blood and lymph are interconnected. Tissue fluid has nothing to do with your circulatory system. Okay. So, these are the three principal fluid: blood, tissue and lymph. Now, we go to the characteristics of blood. Remember, the functions of blood I connected along with the transport. Why do we need transport in our body? Now, what are the characteristics? Now, we concentrate on blood, circulation of blood, okay, circulatory system, etc. Now, what is the characteristics of blood? Now, remember, we all have seen blood. This much we know without looking at the book. Even we know the color of the blood is red. We know the taste of the blood. Normally, when you get a cut, we do like this in the mouth. It is always tastes salty. These two, and it is in a liquid form. This much as a general knowledge, looking at it, any common man will know these are the characteristics or properties of the blood. But let us look at blood is never stationary. Blood inside your body is like a river that flows constantly. Remember children, एक झरना है कि ये constantly flow करते रहा, कभी वो stationary. अगर एक बार वो stationary हो गया तो we are dead. Okay, that's how the clot takes place. Okay, अगर blood stationary हम लोग को body में होना था हम लोग मार जाएंगे. So blood is never stationary, it always in a motion. It constantly flows from heart to different parts of the body. From different parts of the body it comes to the heart. Okay, so it always keeps flowing from heart to arteries, arteries back to through veins back to the heart. The color I told you, thick fluid, bright red. It's thick. Okay, blood is always thick fluid, the density is more, okay, and it is bright red when taken from artery. अगर आप लोग artery से खून को निकाल रहे हैं, it's bright red in color. But if you take a blood from vein, it is dark red in color. Remember, it is bright red if it removed from, they will ask in the exams, what is the color of the blood when removed from artery? It is bright red. What's the color of the blood when removed from vein? It is dark red. So remember children, so the color is, when taken from artery, it is bright red. When taken from vein, it is dark red. Then volume, an adult human being contains, we all have around 5 to 6 liters of blood by volume. Okay, if you take a liter, if you take out the entire blood in our body and we measure about 5 to 6 liters of blood. What the taste? As I said, it tastes salty and the pH value is 7.3 to 7.45. Now that's about the characteristics of blood. Next we go to composition of blood. It's very important. So far what did we see? We said what is the importance of circulatory system or the blood. Okay, the characteristics of the blood, not the characteristics of the blood. Why do we need a transport system? Why do we need blood in our body? What is the functions of our blood in our body? Then we saw the 3 principal fluid, that's your lymph, your blood and your tissue fluid we saw. Then we saw about the character, then we focused on to the blood proper because that's a chapter proper, and the blood characteristics of blood we saw. Then remember children, blood and lymph are interconnected. You will understand how it is interconnected at the end of the chapter. Now we got the composition of blood. Now the blood consists of 2 main things. Number 1, plasma. Remember, the blood consists of A, plasma. Now B, the cellular component, which is also known as corpuscles. Please remember, C-O-R-P-U-S-C-L-E-S, corpuscles, okay. The cellular component or corpuscles, that is your RBC, WBC and blood platelets. Thus, the blood consists of plasma is nothing but pani, the water part. They say blood is a fluid, right? Liquid. So that liquid part is called the plasma, which measures about 55 to 60%. Okay, now why it is called blood is called tissue and why it is called fluid connective tissue? Because you see, plasma in itself is not a tissue, but because you have millions and millions of blood cells, that is your RBC, WBC and blood platelets floating in the blood, present inside the blood, it makes your plasma plus cellular compound collectively called your fluid connective tissue. If it is plasma alone, it cannot be considered as tissue, and blood cells cannot survive without the fluid because it needs a medium to be interconnected. So these cells which are floating independently inside the blood are connected with one another by a medium called a plasma, which is a fluid or liquid, and that's why blood is called liquid connective tissue or fluid connective tissue. So thus I repeat, blood consists of 2. Number 1, the plasma. Number 2, the cellular element or blood cells or blood corpuscles. Now the plasma consists 55 to 60% and cellular component consists of your 40 to 45%. Okay. Now we go little bit, we concentrate on plasma. Plasma is straw colored. Straw, you know, the hay. You know, after harvesting paddy, when the paddy gets dried, you remove the paddy, that rest part of it when it is dry, it's called a hay or straw. So it's light yellow, so that color of the hay or straw is light yellow color. So the plasma, the color of the plasma is light yellow color and it is alkaline liquid because the taste is salty. The pH value is 7 to 7.3 to 7.5, etc. Okay. So it's alkaline liquid. So that's the nature. Please remember children, it's yellow color and alkaline. You know, alkaline is basing on your pH value. If the pH value is below 7, it's acidic. If it's 7 and above, it is alkaline. Then you have the water. Remember, the plasma is composed of 90 to 92% of plasma is composed of water. Only 7 to 8% of it is composed of protein. I will tell you what are the few name of the proteins present. Okay, we'll tell you later. Then you have inorganic salts 1%, then you have the sodium chloride, sodium bicarbonate, glucose, amino acids, fibrinogen is a protein, hormones, urea, etc. Okay, and other substances and traces. Now, what are the proteins specifically is your albumin, globulin and fibrinogen. Now, these are the components of blood. I repeat, the blood consists of two things, plasma and blood cells. Plasma is nothing, plasma consists of 55 to 60%, blood cells consist of your 40 to 45%. And plasma is color is yellow color, light yellow color, and it is alkaline fluid. And most of the 90 to 92% of the plasma is formed of water, 7 to 8% formed of protein, and 1% the other inorganic salts like sodium chloride, sodium bicarbonate, glucose, amino acids, fibrinogen, hormone, urea, etc. You know amino acids, I have taught you in class 9. Fibrinogen is a protein present in the blood which helps in blood clotting. Glucose, you know what it is, and sodium bicarbonate, sodium chloride, you know it's a chemistry word, it's it's a salt, and then you have other traces and substances. And you have also other meaning, you have hormones, enzymes, mineral nutrients like calcium, sodium, potassium, chlorine, etc. are present in the blood. So, this is the composition of blood. Okay. Then we go to the blood now. Of your blood cells and plasma. And plasma is at 55 to 60%, out of which 90 to 92% is water and 7 to 8% is your protein and 1% other substances. So, that is about your plasma. Then we now concentrate on blood. Now, blood consists of 3, RBC, WBC and blood platelets. I repeat, blood components or the blood cellular element of the blood, or the blood cells of the blood, or blood corpuscles of the blood. It is also known as blood corpuscles of the blood. Consists of 3 different type of cells present, that is your RBC, WBC and blood platelets. Okay. Now, you have the RBC here, you have these are your WBC and this is your blood platelets. You see the diagram, RBC, you see, look at nicely, RBC, I will teach you separately also, RBC, WBC and your blood platelets. RBC is also known as erythrocytes because it is red in color. Erythro matlab red, cytes matlab cells. So, RBC is also known as erythrocytes. White matlab leuco. So, white blood cells is also known as leukocytes. Cells are otherwise called cytes. So, leukocytes, white blood cells, red erythrocytes, RBC. Then you have the blood platelets, okay, which is also known as thrombocytes because the blood platelets interact with the thrombokinase. So, it is also known as thrombocytes. Remember children, blood platelets is also known as thrombocytes because when I teach you about the functions of blood platelet, you will understand why it is called thrombocytes. Okay. Now, we go to, let me explain to you, the cellular element consists of RBC, which is known as erythrocytes, white blood cells which is known as leukocytes, and you have blood platelets which is known as thrombocytes. I told you it is called thrombocytes because the blood platelets straight away reacts with the thrombokinase. Okay. Then you have the white blood cells further divided into granulocytes and agranulocytes. The granulocytes contains neutrophils, eosinophils and basophils, and agranulocytes, remember am, so that you will not get mixed up. You remember this word A and M, am, so automatically you will know agranulocytes matlab monocytes and lymphocytes. It's a rhythmic word. So, agranulocytes contains, I repeat, WBC have got 2 main categories, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes have got acidophils, it is also called eosinophils, basophils and neutrophils, and your granulocytes contains your monocytes and lymphocytes. I told you agranulocytes contains your monocytes and lymphocytes. So, you remember am word, so that you remember the moment you use the word agranulocytes, you will remember monocytes, and its lymphocytes is a connecting word. Monocytes and lymphocytes are part of your agranulocytes. Okay. Now these are the blood cells. Look at the blood. Okay. Now these three belong to your granulocytes. These two belongs to your agranulocytes. Okay. Your lymphocytes. Sorry. Where are your lymphocytes? Monocytes. Sorry. These two contains your lymphocytes and monocytes. These two are your agranulocytes. 1, 2, 3. They are your granulocytes. Okay. Collectively comprising your white blood cells. You have the RBC. You have the blood platelets. The first one we go to is RBC, which is also called erythrocytes, Icse, because it's red in color. So the cells which are red in color having a specific function is called RBC. What's the shape? It's minute, very, very microscopic. Okay, biconcave. Look, it's biconcave and flat at the center, thick and round at the periphery. Remember, children, it's biconcave, flat at the center, thick and round at the periphery. Periphery matlab out mein. Okay, outside it's thick and round, beach mein it's flat. Okay, and biconcave. Then so that it's very, very microscopic tissue cells. What the size? 7 micron in diameter. It's very, very small and 7 micron. 1 micron is equal to 1 by 1000 millimeter of a scale. So they are very small and 7 micron in diameter. Diameter is this. Okay. So 7 micron in diameter. Imagine how small it is. Then the number is, in male it is 5 million RBC per cubic millimeter, whereas in female it's at 4.5. Sometimes in some books it will tell you in male it is 5.4 and female it is 4.5. Remember, in male some book will give you an information of 5.4 in male and 4.5 million per cubic millimeter is very, very important because they are counted on the basis of a 1 square. You know that in the slide under which you will count the RBC, WBC, blood platelet will be all in square. Okay. So automatically when it is in square, you will count how much RBC in one single square, and the area of a square is cubic millimeter. So the word cubic millimeter is very important. If you simply write 5 million, you will not get mark. Suppose in the exam they ask you what is the count of RBC in male, you have to write either 5 or 5 to 4.4 million, 5.4 million per cubic millimeter because it's counted in the square, in each square. How much is present in a single square? Okay, and the source. Source is it's produced in the marrow of long bones. Okay, you know what is marrow? Marrow is हम लोग हड्डी को निकालेंगे तो बीच में होलो है, उसमें लाल लाल चीज रहता है. That is your marrow. Okay, so there it's which means in all the long bone. It may be your you learned your skeleton system in your this one. It may be femur. It may be anyway all the long bones. The marrow of the long bones. Then you have a rib. In the rib, marrow of the rib. Also in the breastbone. And ileum of the hip girdle, and in children in the bone marrow, all the bone marrow, chota ya bada, all the bone marrow in children. So it's produced in all bone marrow of all the bones, but in adults it's produced in the long bone and rib, in breastbone and ileum of hip bone, hip girdle. You have learnt hip girdle is here, and you have it is your ileum. You have learnt in the class 9 chapter what is ileum. RBC, where is it destroyed? So source, this is your source. जहाँ पे हम लोग produce RBC जहाँ पे formation होता है is your here. जहाँ पे destroy होता है RBC gets destroyed in liver, spleen and bone marrow. Remember children, RBC is destroyed in liver, spleen and bone marrow. Where is it produced? In the long bones of your, in the bone marrow of your long bones, your breastbone, your rib bone, your hip girdle, ileum of the hip girdle, etc. But in children, in the marrow of all the bones it's produced. So it is produced there, but it can't be destroyed in liver and spleen. Okay. And number 1, this is very, very important. Okay, I have put it like this. It's very important. The mature RBC. Normally children, as soon as the RBC is produced, it has nucleus. Again, as it grows and becomes mature, it becomes without, it is devoid of. the nucleus, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum. These three organelles are absent in a mature nucleus. Remember, mitochondria, nucleus and endoplasmic reticulum are absent in a mature nucleus. If you remember, in the syllabus there was a point, efficiency of RBC, the reason why RBC is so efficient in transporting oxygen and carbon dioxide at a rapid rate to different parts of the body and back to lungs. Its reason is because first of all, it's small in size. Number one, it's as it grows, it becomes totally biconcave. It's because automatically the nucleus disappears and then the endoplasmic reticulum disappears, mitochondria disappears. So, if what is the function of mitochondria? Cellular respiration. अगर mitochondria उसमें रहने से जो oxygen है उसको utilize करेगा along with the glucose, तो oxygen will be utilized by cell by itself. Okay. So, because there is no mitochondria, oxygen is not utilized. It's available in abundance to different parts of the body. Number two, nucleus and endoplasmic reticulum, they disappear in order to provide large surface, large area to accommodate more oxygen. So, thus it is though small in size, the entire space is occupied by oxygen. By removing these two organelles, by not having mitochondria, not using the oxygen, so the entire oxygen is available for transporting. Thus, it is so efficient in transporting, carrying, accommodating large number of oxygen and transport to different parts of the body. Remember, they will ask you in the exams, give reason RBC is devoid, matlab without nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum and mitochondria. I told you it has no mitochondria because no oxidation will take place, because mitochondria matlab cellular respiration matlab glucose will utilize oxygen and RBC में क्या है oxygen है. So वो mitochondria वो oxygen use करेगा तो क्या को transport करेगा. So because of that there is no mitochondria, means no use of using oxygen. Oxygen is available for others. Endoplasmic reticulum and nucleus is absent to provide more space. Okay. So, that is about the RBC. The structure and function. Now, we go to hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is another important protein present in RBC. The effective chemical constituent of RBC is hemoglobin. Remember, they will ask you what is hemoglobin. The effective chemical constituent of RBC is hemoglobin. Okay. Now, why it is red in color? They will ask you give reason the RBC is red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin. Now, RBC have colorless spongy body or stroma which contains, okay. So, you know the shape is biconcave. So, it has a colorless spongy body in which you have the hemoglobin present. The hemoglobin is formed of two things, an iron containing part called the hemin. Okay, they will ask you in the exams, name the mineral iron present in hemoglobin is your iron. Okay, name the mineral iron present in chlorophyll is your magnesium. The mineral iron present in hemoglobin is your iron containing part called hemin and a protein called globin. So, globin plus hemin is equal, hemin is a pigment, the real pigment is hemin. So, the pigment part of it is your hemin and the protein part of it is your globin. So, hemin plus globin is equal to hemoglobin. Then you have, it has the ability to combine readily with the function. Function of hemoglobin is it combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin. Similarly, it combines with the carbon dioxide known as carboxyhemoglobin. So, thus in the lungs, the hemoglobin quickly combines with the oxygen and transported to different parts of the body, and at the different parts of the body in cells, it combines with the carbon dioxide and brings back to the lungs. So, thus the function of hemoglobin is to transport oxygen to different parts of the body by combining with the oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, and to combine in different parts of the body hemoglobin to carbon dioxide to form carboxyhemoglobin. Okay. So, we said in the cellular component you have, that is the blood cells or blood corpuscles, you have RBC, WBC and blood platelets. In RBC we said the shape, it is okay, biconcave, we said it is biconcave, flat at the center, thick and round at the periphery. So, that is your shape. Regarding number, I said in female it is 4.5 million and whereas in male it is 5.4 million per cubic millimeter, that is your number. size I said 7 micron, lifespan I said 120 days, okay, and its source, it's produced in adult I said in the long bone, the marrows of all the long bones like your breastbone, your rib bone, your long bones and the ileum of the hip girdle, whereas in children I said it produced in the marrow. Marrow matlab imagine children bone ka andar mein laal cheez ka hai, that is your marrow of all the bones in this one, and it is destroyed in liver and spleen. Then I said about the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a chemical constituent of your RBC, okay, which reacts with the RBC, which connects to RBC, which is present in the spongy empty space which is filled with this hemoglobin. The hemoglobin contains two parts, one is an iron containing part called your hemin and the protein part called your globulin. So, the hemin plus globin together forms your hemoglobin. The pigment part of your hemoglobin is your hemin, and name the mineral iron present in hemoglobin is your iron or ferrous, whereas in chlorophyll it's your magnesium. And the function, it combines with the oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, it combines with the carbon dioxide form carboxyhemoglobin, okay. Now there is a thing called carbon monoxide. Children, this RBC has a strong affinity also with carbon monoxide. Now, where do you find carbon monoxide? Suppose there is a smoke in this room, it is closed all over, there is no outlet. Now, that smoke will be full of carbon monoxide. If you breathe in that, you will, it is poisonous for our body, and hemoglobin has a strong affinity towards that too. So, if you are in a room with full of smoke with no outlet, you feel suffocated, so much so with longer time you are led to death. It is mainly because the RBC has a strong affinity with the carbon monoxide, which is called carbon monoxide poisoning. Then we go to your WBC. So, that's about your RBC. We go to WBC. WBC, what's the number? 4,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeter. Whereas, now we will see, it's in general average. We will see later, I will teach you specifically about each of them. I told you the WBC contains your, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Agranulocytes, I said monocytes and lymphocytes. Granulocytes, I said azurophils, and that is your basophils, eosinophils or azurophils and neutrophils. I will teach in the next class details about them. Right now, in general, I will tell you what is RBC, the number, function, everything in general, and blood platelets. After that, I will teach you a little more in details about each cells, that is what is azurophil, what is neutrophil, what is basophils, what is monocytes, lymphocytes, what is each one's function, and then we will see in details about the functions, okay, that is what is phagocytosis, how does that happen, what is inflammation, how does that happen, what is formation of antibodies, we will see in the next class. Is a 4,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeter, and the WBC has nucleus and no hemoglobin, whereas RBC has no nucleus but has hemoglobin. WBC has nucleus and has no hemoglobin because that is a red colored pigment, that's why it is white in color. RBC, because it contains a red colored pigment, that is why it is red in color. Now coming to function, there are three main functions: phagocytosis, inflammation. Children, inflammation is, suppose let us take something bit you. What happens to you? Suppose some bit you, some wasp bit you or honeybee bit you, immediately it swells. That swelling is called inflammation. I will teach you what exactly inflammation, how does it happen in the next class. Now just know the function. The function is phagocytosis. I will teach you what is phagocytosis, inflammation and formation of antibody. Then you have the source, where is it produced? Where was RBC produced? In the long bones of in adults, long bones of the marrow मतलब वो लाल चीज, bone के अंदर में जो लाल चीज है वो वाला. So the marrow of long bones, your breastbone, your rib bone and your girdle, hips of ileum of girdle. Okay, there it is produced in children. I said marrow of all the long bones I said, and here you have the red bone marrow, lymph nodes and liver and spleen, sometimes in liver and spleen too. So, source is red bone marrow, lymph nodes, okay, and liver and spleen are the source of WBC. Then you have the lifespan only few hours because they are constantly fighting against various germs, bacteria, virus, fungi entering into our body. So, because they are constantly protecting our body from various foreign body, their lifespan is just only few hours, whereas RBC has lifespan 120 days. They are destroyed just like your RBC is destroyed in liver and spleen. Here also they are destroyed in liver, spleen and bone marrow. In general, this is about the WBC. I told you in the next class I will teach in details about your agranulocytes and granulocytes. Agranulocytes contains your monocytes and lymphocytes. Granulocytes contains your acidophils or eosinophils, basophils and neutrophils. I will teach in details what is its number, what is its size, what is its shape, what is its function, what is the source of its production, etc. I will teach in details about that. The next class, similarly, in details about the functions, also especially about your phagocytosis and inflammation, a little bit about how the antibody is formed, who forms, because lymphocytes have got two type of cells. If you remember, I told you a little bit in class 9, B cells and T cells. The B cells of lymphocytes forms the antibodies and T cells is responsible for phagocytosis. I will teach in the next class that. And I told about the source in RBC also. I said this is also source. Lifespan we compared, RBC has 120 days, here it is only a few hours, okay. See, only the white blood cells, okay, monocytes and lymphocytes, these are your agranulocytes, eosinophils. I will tell you why it is called eosinophils, basophils and neutrophils. Eosinophils because eosin is an acidic dye, okay. So, it is also called acidophils. So, it has a philic affinity. So, because it has an affinity towards eosin dye, it is known as eosinophils. This has an affinity towards basophils, so which means ये वाला eosin dye को लगाने से सिर्फ ये वाला cells eosinophil only they will only be seen, बाकी लोग दिखाई नहीं देगा. Similarly, यहाँ पे if you put a basic dye, okay, only the basophils because will be seen, other cells will not be seen. Neutrophil, they will not be, if you put, they will not have an affinity. So which means when you put this dye, these two group of cells will not be seen. Only though when you put a neutral dye, which means neither acidic dye nor basic dye, when you put a special dye which is neutral, neither acidic in nature nor basic in nature, which means neither alkaline nor acidic, when you have it put a dye, only these sets of cells will be seen under the microscope. So, they have a name called as eosinophils, basophils and neutrophils, collectively called granulocytes because they have a granular like structure, okay. Whereas in this case you will see, you will not see any granular like structure, there is no granular. So, that is why it is called, they are agranulocytes, that is why it is all, you will see lot of granular like structure here. So, that is why they are called granulocytes. Here you will not see any granular like structure, so it is called agranulocytes, that is your monocytes and lymphocytes, okay. Next we go to blood platelets. Look, this is your RBC, okay, which is biconcave and flat and at the center plain and flat at the center, thick and round at the periphery, and look at your blood platelets. These are your blood platelets, okay. Now, this is your blood platelets. Now, blood platelets is also known as thrombocytes because it has, the blood platelets has an affinity to react with a special substance present in the blood called thrombokinase or thromboplastin.